It's showtime. Yeah, welcome back to the All-Purpose Pod for an all-purpose life, wherever you are and however you're hearing our show. Thank you again for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world, baby. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, everywhere except TikTok. How you guys doing this morning, man?
Well, we're working on that.
Exactly.
I don't want to go to TikTok, but all right, man. Well, we got so much to talk about and not enough time to do it, so.
Correct.
I'll jump in. First off, happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody who's celebrating. One of the greatest leaders of all times and instrumental in a lot of the good things about our country. So we thank God for him, and we're glad that he had an influence and an impact that he did, and we celebrate him today, however you guys are celebrating. So where do we start? There's so many good things that happen.
It's been like one of the craziest weeks. Like, I don't understand. And then we had the playoffs. Like,
right?
What the heck?
Oh, man, I'm giddy because I don't even know where to go. I mean, there's so many things planned on the document. I'm like, wow. Some things are taking precedent immediately. But, all right, coaching carousel, man, NFL and new hires. Anybody shocked by Vrabel getting cut from the Titans? Yeah. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Dude got a winning record. I mean, the playoffs record wasn't that great, but he wasn't there that long. I mean, they just canned him.
Yeah.
We had a whole list.
Bad. He made it to a championship game.
Yeah.
We had a list of like 10 people that were going to get cut. His name was not on the list. What happened?
I didn't think the team was set up for success this year either. I thought they were in between trying to rebuild and still trying to compete, by holding on to Tannehill and Derrick Henry maybe a little too long. So I thought he did the best he could with what he had out there. I didn't think he was doing a bad coaching. It was like almost the opposite of the Chargers. He didn't have a whole lot of talent. He was getting the absolute most out of them. So,
yeah, it's funny. I thought Vrabel was going to be fine. I thought the GM was getting fired.
Right. I could see that.
Because not only have they held on to these guys, but they also haven't done anything to make the team better. Right. So I thought that solidly fell at the feet of the GM. And so when Vrabes got fired, you're just like, wow, okay. I mean, I hope they have a plan.
Right. Right.
I don't know what happened, man, because they won games that they probably shouldn't have won. That was shocking. I'm like, wow. Yeah. They have a stellar record, but I thought they did pretty good, considering like you said, heard about Derrick Henry. I think he's been there a little bit longer than he probably should have.
And it's coming from a Derrick Henry fan, but he was at the position early on. Yeah,
well,
but he was at the position where it wasn't helping much anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude was a beast, but their offensive line isn't great. He's been more injury prone. Tannehill isn't an elite quarterback even when he was in his prime, right? No. So, I mean, you bring in a D-Hop. He bounces between the two quarterbacks. Nobody could seem to really get in a rhythm. I mean, that's not a recipe for success. The fact that they won games at all is kind of awesome and a testament to the defense he put together without a lot of talent on that side of the ball either. So I definitely feel like he maximized what that team could do. Yeah. And but I mean, on the other end, another team's going to get a good coach.
Yeah, but not the team that we thought was going to get him, because I thought he was definitely going to the Patriots. There was a few little breadcrumbs that said that was going to happen. I also said Gerard Mayo was going to be one of the candidates. I said that on I don't know how many shows back it was, maybe a month back or so, when we were talking about Belichick possibly leaving and whatever. I didn't think that would happen the way it did, but Mayo's in the job now. So where's that leave Vrabel? Where's he going now? So,
well, I mean, Vrabel would be a really nice, a really easy pickup for Atlanta. Atlanta could use that, help that defense out a little bit more, go get a quarterback, and they have some other nice weapons. I mean,
good Lord, where are they at? Where are they at in the draft? Anybody know?
I think they're eighth. I want to say they're eighth, roughly. So somewhere right in there.
Go get a quarterback, huh?
They're a top 10. They're a top 10. So, but if you were to do something like that, you already have weapons. You got a decent defense anyway. Now you bring in a defensive head coach, and you're also in a division that isn't very good. So, I mean, you could turn right around next year and be a playoff team. I mean, they narrowly missed it anyway with a losing record. So, I mean, I could see Vrabel in Atlanta. I could see that marriage working.
Is there any chance he's in Carolina or in Washington?
No one wants that Carolina job.
No.
Like if you care about your career at all, you don't take that job.
Yeah, agree.
Washington.
I don't know Vrabel. I don't know him personally, so I don't know how he thinks or how he views things. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't see a path to success for several years. And if you're a guy like Vrabel, I just feel like he's if my team is good, I can take them to great, kind of guy. Versus my team is trash. I just don't see him wanting to do a 3 or 4 year rebuild.
Well, I actually don't think he would mind that if you didn't have the owner that is going to fire you halfway through a season because you haven't had success in the land of misfit toys.
That's what I was getting ready to say. If you want to put a Tepper influence in this thing, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't want to do that, because that's an easy 4 or 5 year bid at least.
Yeah.
To be able to hang out there, especially with a new quarterback in Washington, because you're probably going to have to do that, because I don't think Howard's going to be the guy. And you got Young, he's their franchise guy, so he's not going anywhere. So you're kind of not tied to him career-wise, but you get a good long contract to help groom him and build a team around him. Yeah,
I mean the problem is even without Tepper there, say you had a sane owner, you gave up the world to go get Bryce Young. So not only are you kind of not in a favorable cap situation, you also have no picks. Like this team they're going to run back the trash that they had this year next year. Like they're going to be able to add like a couple of later round pick guys, and they'll start because that whole team is bad. But I mean, ultimately, it's still going to be another bad team. Will they win more than one game? Yeah, probably. They'll probably win 3. But still, like that, if you're Vrabel, you don't want that headache. I mean, because you got a weird owner, no money, no draft, a bad O-line, a small quarterback. Like everything about this says you get fired in a year.
They have 6 picks in this next draft, starting with the second round. And then
they do have a second. Okay. Yeah.
They have their own second, their own third, their own fourth, and then like San Fran's 5th, Tennessee's 5th, Arizona's 6th.
Okay.
Oh boy.
It's not great.
They didn't have a first or a second. I was just like, man, what are they even going to do?
Right. I mean, it's still not great. That list right there. Yeah. I mean, 6 picks with a team that needs everything is not. I mean, starting at the second round, you're not fixing anything.
Sounds like we got a lot of there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, you're putting Band-Aids on and hoping.
Well, and you can't even do anything in free agency because they don't have any money. Yeah. You're just like, okay.
You think this will be in the quarter?
I thought the money was decent. No.
It's funny for not having talent. They're not one of the better cap room teams. Washington would make sense though. Okay. That's a full rebuild, but it at least has a direction, right? They bring in the assistant GM from the Niners, so that's a nice pickup. If he's learned anything from John Lynch, because I mean that dude's killed it as a GM so far. That's a nice pickup for Washington. So if you picked up a Vrabel or something like that could be a huge benefit to him for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of openings going on now, especially like you mentioned Atlanta. Belichick's name is popping up in Atlanta and Dallas. It's like shocking to me. I'm like, he's been in New England so long. It's so hard for me to even see anything else. It's like I'm not saying it's not impossible, but it's just like see him in the Falcons is like.
I mean, it would be crazy. Although, I mean, it would be a similar.
I have a hard time with that.
It'd be a similar fit as Vrabel, though, right? Because Vrabel's from the Belichick tree. So,
I can't wait till he gets mad in a meeting and brings up how they came back in the Super Bowl against him when he's coaching the Falcons. This is how you guys played when you gave up that big lead against us.
And I guess along with Belichick, we got to talk about a few other coaches that made some surprise changes. being in college, Nick Saban, and then with Seattle, your team, Bo, Pete Carroll. We were texting each other like, what happened?
Yeah.
None of these guys were on our list of coaches that were going to definitely get canned. We knew Arthur Smith was gone. We knew Staley was gone. We knew McDaniels before his time, he was already gone. We knew it already. We had speculations about Belichick and some other. I'm blanking out on the other.
No, I mean that's how you know it's a weird. That's how you know it's a weird year when you have guys like Saban, Belichick, Carroll, Vrabel, all gone before a guy like Eberflus or Dennis Allen. So clearly we're just in bizarro land because none of those guys keeping their job versus these guys losing their jobs makes no sense.
All right. Good morning, Mom. Feather Freebird in the house joining us on a Monday morning. Good morning to you, ma'am. So good to hear from you. And thank you so much for supporting us and taking care of this man over here, keeping him straight. Thank you so much. We need your help with that. Yeah. So there's a lot. I don't know. How you feel about Carroll and him being fired? I know you didn't expect it because we didn't talk about it whatsoever. So how do you feel about that now with the course of the team? Do you think they're going in the right direction now, or who's his replacement, or is this a cluster that we have seen the opening credits to? What do you think?
Well, probably the last one because, I mean, unless you have a clear plan, right? There's not a lot of coaches out there that are going to be an upgrade from Pete Carroll. So, and to fire him before the last year of his contract in a year where a lot of other coaches are getting fired doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Because now you're competing with other job opportunities. Whereas if you were to let him go at the end of his contract next year, you'd be one of like 4 or 5 coaches maybe. And it's easier to bring that talent in unless they're swinging for the fence and going after Harbaugh. Because if they do that, that at least sort of makes sense for the path that Pete Carroll took to get to the Seahawks, right? He wins a couple of national titles with SC, dodges NCAA sanctions, comes to the NFL and kills it in the draft because he coached against all these kids. So he's going to know more about, especially the late round guys, than say any of the NFL scouts. Because although they do it as a job, he did it in real time against them every day, right? So if you were going to try and recapture that lightning in a bottle, that's exactly Harbaugh, right? Wins national title, avoiding NCAA sanctions. Wherever he goes is going to have a nice
part. Why do you keep saying that part?
Because it's hilarious. Because that does seem to be how a lot of coaches end up leaving the NCAA. But anyway, so he, if he comes in, he should be able to kill it in the draft wherever he goes because, again, he was coaching against these kids. So, yeah, I mean, it's if they were going for that, that makes sense. Outside of that, there's not a lot of coaches where you're like, oh, this is a clear upgrade from what it is we had. You kind of knew that the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators were going to get let go, but I was surprised to see Pete get let go.
You're going to end up with Dan Quinn, probably.
Yeah. I mean,
it's you don't like it. Probably going to end up being the best case scenario based on the names that they're putting out there.
Yeah, but even after yesterday, Dan Quinn's still a high candidate.
Huh?
I said even after yesterday, is he a big candidate?
So
probably still, yeah.
He probably is. The thing for me is, we know Dan Quinn here in the Northwest, right? He was part of our Super Bowl team. He goes on to Atlanta, and he makes it to a Super Bowl, so he gets credited for that. Obviously, they had a meltdown, whatever. But that's not the part that I really focus on his career. There is he got there and was able to win with a team that was already constructed, right? Like he didn't come in and be the GM and build that team. Like he came in and the team had some nice pieces. They added a few more, and over the course of a couple of years, they played well. He took them to a Super Bowl. But then as it became the team that he heavily influenced, that team got worse and worse and worse. It's not like in Pete Carroll's situation where he's at least, staying in that playoff picture, right? Like you have good years, you have bad years. I mean, that's just part of coaching. But, you're always in and around that playoff picture, and you could just see a steady decline in Dan Quinn's team the longer he was there. And so I don't know that I necessarily love him as a head coach. That being said, most of the guys that we view as some of the best coaches in the league kind of didn't have a great first start either. So, I mean, maybe he can turn it around in his second crack at it. If he comes here, I hope he does. So
if he comes here, scratch everything I just said. I'm rooting for the guy.
Well, I mean, whoever's your coach, like, you hope they do well, right? Like, I mean, we had John Mora at one time for 1 year who had a 4-win season. Like, it was not great just before Pete Carroll got here. So, that's where you're hoping. You're like, I hope you can turn it around.
All right. Well, thank you for your thoughts on that, brother. Okay, Herb, the board taking over for Saban. I saw some of the messages that we sent back and forth, but how do you really feel about what took place out there?
I had to defer to other people on that one, to be honest. So I was like reading the ESPN articles, going to Randy, my Georgia fan, because he's one of the first people to mention him to me, in his top 3 list. They're all like A+ higher. Like, I like the fact that he's an offensive mind. I don't think anybody was really thinking the last 3 years we've gotten anything offensively developed, out of our guys. Like, I think Milroe's behind where he would be if he had a better coach, than Bob. And I feel like Reese wasn't doing great there. So I like that part of it. I like the fact that they moved quickly. And, I see all the stuff about he's not from the SEC or whatever, but it seems like he's bringing people with him that'll help with recruiting. And, I'm just like, this is kind of an aside to it. I've had to learn this week that I really need to stop letting 18 to 20-year-olds like affect how I feel about my day. So it's like, I just want to get back to the season.
Get that out, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, you're just watching it and refreshing everything. You're just like, so, I mean, it hit me more that he retired versus, when they hired a coach, I was like, great. I feel bad for the next guy regardless, because one of the guys down here I watch, he put out a video already on TikTok, and it was like Alabama fans the first time that DeBoer loses the coin toss, and he comes like heads or it's tails. Oh, get him out of here. Like that's about how it's gonna be, and it's like you replace what I consider the greatest coach of all time, and you're gonna expect the same. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So
do you think the offense should be different?
Say what?
You think the offense be more like what he did in Washington, or do you think he's going to kind of conform to what Saban was doing?
I think it'll be a mix of the two, but I definitely think the passing concepts will be better. And, people have asked several times, like, do I think Milroe's going to be the guy next year? If he's the guy, he's going to be greatly improved. If not, it's going to be a battle between Simpson and Saban. And I think that's fair in this offense where you're going to try and pass more, Milroe was gated 30 yards and 2 yards. He wasn't great at anything in between. And I think for this offense that he's trying to bring, you got to be better, at all levels. So I'm excited. I just want to get back to playing. Like, I'm tired of personnel news. Like, that's not supposed to be a college football thing, and now all of a sudden,
not right now, brother.
Yeah. So I just want to get back to playing.
Yeah. Same thing with the Harbaugh. He's meeting with the Bolts this week, or today. I think it's either this week or it's today, but who knows how that's going to go, right? Heard about Max Crosby. He's threatening the franchise. He said, if you don't bring Pierce on as the head coach, I'm going to be traded. Now his contract ends in 2026, so Raiders do have the leverage there, but that's kind of what's happening on that front.
Yeah. I like that move, like as a player, but I'd never like threatening a guy with a lot of money, because I feel like some of these owners are like, well, I was going to hire him until you told me I have to hire him. Now I'm not going to hire him. Almost like that. So I wonder how that plays.
Other than that, but I hope. Any other thoughts on Harbaugh and the Chargers? He seemed to be the favorite there. That anything you guys have any insights on? If not, we can move on to Mike Tomlin.
Well, I mean, we got to know if Harbaugh's actually going to move first, right?
Well,
because it's not like the Chargers would be the only ones that are blowing his phone up. Because you figure Washington would definitely make a bid for it. Seattle, obviously,
He's the favorite, clearly, and I can see why. I mean, there is some kind of mutual interest there, or they wouldn't even be extending themselves this much. Harbaugh wants to be on the West Coast. You know that. He wants to be in warm weather cities. I think we already know that part already. He wants to be back in the NFL to kind of finish what he started.
Mm-hmm.
Is Los Angeles the place to do that? I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. If anything happens to the Niners coach, or he just happens to get real sick or drop dead or something, you can be Harbaugh be going to them and paying for their lunch to get hired over there. So
right, yeah, he would definitely go back.
I know he wants to be there, so it's just a matter of what may be going on there. Okay, so Mike Tomlin. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Mike Tomlin has a year left in his contract. He has a record of 173 and 102. I think it is 100 and then two. The two ties in 17 seasons. He's talking to his family about whether he wants to come back or not. We talked about, whether Tomlin would get fired because of how bad they did 2 weeks ago before they had the little mini resurgence they had. But what do you guys think, man? I mean, he's been there for a while. 17 years is a long time. I know that without we're having a losing record, which is a great accomplishment. But it's like, from his standpoint, is he seeing this team as a team he can go forward with and really build on, especially from the quarterback position? Or it's just like, you know what? I did a lot of good things here. It's time for me to, cut my losses and head on home. What would you guys do if you were him? What are you thinking and hearing? What do you think he's going to decide?
I think whenever you're considering it, that means you have one foot out the door. And if taking a step back and kind of re-energize or revitalize you, I think that's what you have to do. And it's also everyone else is reading these reports, So how as a player do you feel your coach comes back and says, I was going to quit, but, I'm back there. So I know that's probably not the exact phrasing, but 17, like I said, that's a long time. And are they going to be any better next year if he gives it one more year? I mean, you've got your third string quarterback in there and you think he might be better than your first two. You're still trying to figure that out. Your offense is not going to be great next year because of that fact alone. So what's going to improve next year? We're going to fight, kick, and scratch to get one more non-losing season. So, if you're thinking about it, sometimes it's just good to go ahead and step away for a year. So
that's fair. It's weird, man. I mean, we talked about, Vrabel shouldn't be in this particular conversation right here, but we talked about Saban, Belichick, Carroll, and now potentially Mike Tomlin too. And like you said, it's probably, if you were asking me right now without knowing any other information, I think he's gone.
Well, and if he does,
all of the coaches that I guess have some kind of tenure or have been around for quite a while, they're all leaving. What does that signify? What does that mean about the NFL right now?
Well, I mean, it signifies that these guys are old. I mean,
realistically, old. Man, Saban was 72 years old, right?
Yeah, and Belichick's 72, Pete's 71. I
don't think age is a factor in this, man. You can coach in your 50s and 60s. People do it all the time.
Yeah, but
we're talking about 70s. Yeah. We're talking about 20 years later, man.
Like how many nowhere near 70s?
No, I'm saying the other guys. Oh. Yeah, I mean, you can just get tired and want to change. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
It seems like all of the old guard is leaving. That's my only real point in all this. I mean, can you guys see that? Like the guys that were symbolic of the 90s NFL, if you will. I guess that's safe to say, right? The 90s NFL. Yeah. It's hard to find them. They're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you need his pop to retire, and our entire childhood would have retired this year.
Yeah. I think for the older guys, man, the game just keeps changing so much to where I think for a lot of them it used to be like I got this team and I'm gonna have this team for a while, and now it's like whatever team I have with the way personnel changes and the money changes and everything, this change, it could be different from year to year. And I think sometimes it's just a grind,
It makes you wonder.
Probably too much off-season stuff to deal with now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it makes you wonder if that's really what influenced Saban to be like, you know what?
That definitely was.
It's like, I don't like the recruiting. I don't like the NIL. I don't enjoy this anymore. I'm going to do all of this recruiting to have a guy transfer just before the season. Yeah. It's like I get why you'd want to bow out, right? You'd be like, what? I got all the rings. I'm going to go down as the best coach ever, and the new layout I hate. See you later.
I'll say this. I think if we beat Georgia 3 years ago, whatever, I think he retires after that one. And I think it was kind of holding on to maybe get one more. And I think he enjoyed this season. But it was clear from the beginning he didn't like NIL. And I want to separate two things. He didn't mind the players getting paid, and I think he was a voice for that. But we've taken it to a whole nother level where you're basically contacting kids from schools and saying, hey, we'll pay you this much to come to our school,
Yeah.
So it's like I think it's gone to a whole nother level. And I just don't think that he likes that.
Well, and having the transfer portal during the season is kind of crazy, right? Like if it was before the season, hey, that's fine. But you can transfer during the season. Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
It breaks up the continuity. To make up of the team. I don't know what it does for the guys that are the other players. I don't know what they're thinking about. My best friend's getting ready to leave. It's like now. So
I don't know. The NCAA has to fix that because that doesn't make any sense because that disrupts two different schools, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't just disrupt the one that you're leaving, where maybe you are a second stringer and you're not necessarily heavily involved or whatever, but you're going to go over somewhere where you're going to potentially displace a starter. So now you're going to change the continuity of the whole team.
Yep.
I don't know. I just think it's a bad look. I think the NCAA has a lot of things to work through with the transfer portal and the NIL, making it work smoothly. Because as it sits right now, it's the Wild West, right? Like it's a dumpster fire out there. They got to do something with it.
Yeah, because to that point, we talk a lot about the team that guy's leaving. But imagine I'm on a team and I'm the quarterback and I find out they're recruiting another guy from the transfer portal, quarterback. Exactly. Now what am I thinking? Am I still focused on the game plan, or I'm like, they're picking out my replacement right now? Like it just none of it makes sense. And having to go through all this recruiting, like you said, and get a guy. And now not only are you still recruiting high school kids, you're recruiting other colleges. You still have to recruit the guys that are still on your team just to hope that they're gonna stay. So there's already a report out that Bond, who just left, this was the second time they had to talk him out of the portal. I'm like, we barely have heard your name, and now it's like, teams have been calling him for years now, offering him money, and it's just, it's worse than NFL free agency because that's not how that works. You sign a contract, you're there for a while. Now it's college. You take NIL money from one team, and you still just listen to offers from every other team until it's time to go. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's sad we expect the NCAA to do the right thing. That's what's sad about this whole conversation.
I have zero faith in that.
That's not a real thing. I didn't realize we were playing with unicorns and stuff right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were doing because they can't get the CFP right. Maybe they might do a better job now because they have more building blocks to play with coming up in 2024. But I don't trust them to get it right with the NIL or portal or anything they do. I don't trust them at all. No. But that's another side note. Before we get into the NFL games and these incredible playoff games that we had, where is Raj? I need him here today. But before we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. I don't want to be the one to say it or talk about it. But on last week's show, we're gearing up for the national championship. That happened since, if I'm not mistaken, the last show. So I heard thoughts from you guys, but our viewers and listeners have not. What are your thoughts on the game and how everything went down? I got no rah-rah, man. I'm all rah-rah out. I'm just excited, happy. I'm wearing my gear. Terrorizing folks out here in South Carolina, wearing my hoodies, and my hats should be here soon. I'm be acting a fool out here in a matter of days. But from you guys, man, you guys have had dogs in the fight all the way throughout the end of the playoffs with Bama and Washington. What are your thoughts on the national championship? Entertainment value, skill set, coaching, any kind of nuance? What'd you guys see? What'd you hear?
Yeah, it was a good game. So it started off, kind of lopsided, and the biggest thing with that is you could tell the Huskies were worried about that run game, and they were so overly aggressive to try and fight it that they found their secondary out of position a lot, which allowed those first huge plays to happen. Then they really settled down, and it became a nice game until about halfway through the fourth quarter. Like it was back and forth. It was a good game. And then in the fourth quarter, they were far enough back that they were starting to play catch up. And, at that point they were putting the ball in harm's way, which, that happens when you are behind and trying to catch up. trying to, overcome some of the mistakes they made throughout the game. So really up until about the halfway point in the fourth quarter, it was a really tight game. I mean, going into halftime, especially after the mistakes they made early in the first quarter, only down by 7, overall, it was, I mean, it's what you want to see out of a national championship. It's not like it was, a beat down or anything like that. If you look at just the score, it kind of looked that way. But if you watch the game, it was a good game.
I think most people, I'm not sure they want that you just described. I think they want the game that Washington normally played. I think that's what people want because all the complaints that I saw on my timeline, and not against either one of the teams, more like, it kind of intimated they were kind of hoping for more scoring, more, kind of that air raid stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't always happen in national championship, especially when the number one defense is in the game. I mean,
yeah. Well, and it's funny because when we were talking about it,
your game.
Yeah. Well, and when we were talking about it last Monday, I laid out 2 scenarios, right? I was like, either they can stop the running game, it becomes a track meet, right? Mm-hmm. Or they can't stop the running game, and it's a low-scoring game. Michigan wins, right? Like it was the only 2 ways that game was going to go. Because if
you said that, I got to go back and look. I'm not quite sure you said it just like that, but okay, go ahead.
I mean, you can roll the tape back. It's pretty much that, but yeah, I mean, otherwise, I picked Washington to win, right? I picked it to be the track meet. So, I think I said it was going to be like 35-31, something like that. Yeah. But what I said, on the other end is if they can't stop the run, it's going to be, a low 20s game and Michigan wins that game. If they can grind the clock, that's not Washington's game. They can't compete. So, unfortunately, it went the route that it did for me because I'm a Washington fan. But yeah, I mean, it was really the only 2 ways you could see this game going.
Yeah, neither one of those scenarios happened in this one, which was a little surprising to me. But go ahead, Herb. What were your thoughts? What did you see, brother?
No, I mean, I think that was it. Michigan forced them to play their game. And I don't think the final score is indicative of how close the game was. For most of it, it was a close. And it's funny to me that the Alabama-Michigan game was considered a great game and the Michigan-Washington wasn't. But we're talking about like almost identical scores in the fourth quarter. Just so happened that the team that was down scores and we go to overtime and it's a great game all of a sudden versus, Michigan is the team that scores the next touchdown and all of a sudden it's more of a blowout and it's a terrible game. But Washington had their shots, just, Michigan forced them to play the way they wanted to play. They clamped down on key moments. I thought coming out of the half, Washington really needed to score to get an interception instead. And I thought that was their one chance.
The drops were brutal.
Yeah. And they were all at key times. And you don't get, it's like what I said against them, they're not going to give you many chances. So you have to take advantage. I think there was that, we'll see him watch replay, the 4th down play where he just barely misses a wide open receiver. Yep. It's probably scores. It's just like you're only going to get a couple opportunities and you got to hit them. And
or the guy that, he looks over the wrong shoulder. I mean, he's going to the house if he catches that. No one was by him. Right. So there were some key drops, a couple of them that hit guys right in the hands on 3rd downs. So I mean, there's probably 5 that I can think of that would have made an impact on the game. Obviously, one of them would have changed the complexion of the game quite a bit. That one where he looked on the wrong side. I mean, that's a score. But the other ones weren't necessarily going to be touchdown throws, but drive extension can lead to points, right? So,
Michigan doesn't give you many chances, man.
They don't. They don't.
I didn't think 3 touchdowns. I'll be honest. I hedged on trying to predict a number. I never would have predicted a 3 touchdown win. Never. 10 points was what I was kind of feeling, not 21 points. I'm shocked by that part, but all right, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so we got to jump into NFL, man. We'll hit Browns and Texans real quick, man. I mean, when's the last time you seen a Buckeye and a Wolverine be in total unity? Stroud and Collins were on fire in this game. I had the Texans. I think my pick validates. I had the Texans in this game. I've been kind of beating the table for them the entire year. I don't know what I saw, but just like something. It wasn't D'Amico Ryans himself per se, but it was just something about this team. Their comeback ability, especially in the fourth quarter. I just saw some heart that you don't normally see when the team's led by a rookie quarterback and a rookie coach. You don't ever see that. I can recall ever happening. So I had predicted they had 8 games they're going to win at least. They exceeded that by a good margin, man. They did what I didn't expect, man. But you guys saw the game, man. Was this a disappointing end for Cleveland, or just a step in the right direction for them as far as building? Because I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback situation. I don't like what I saw from Deshaun when he was around. I don't know how healthy he's going to be when he comes back. Flacco was kind of on fire. He was like, the magic man. And all of a sudden, in the last couple of games, we're like, oh, the magic gone. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know what we're kind of seeing here. Do you see Cleveland as a perennial contender moving forward, or is it just like they got exposed and they're going in a different direction with Stefanski and company? What are you thinking?
I mean, they have enough pieces. They're going to be in the conversation, right? The quarterback play is the biggest question, but because they gave Deshaun a guaranteed contract, he ain't going anywhere because the first year was only $1 million of a $230 million contract. So, I mean,
Bobby Bonilla, anyone?
You can't do that in the NFL is the problem. There's
that
none
contract
of that.
was so bad, all the other owners got mad at them and said, "We're not doing this ever."
Yeah,
again.
we gotta do it too.
No, I mean, unfortunately, they just have to lean into the decisions they made. So hopefully Deshaun looks more like the last game when he got hurt than he did the rest of the season. But
do you think that's going to happen? I don't. When Chubb comes back, is Chubb going to be 100% what Chubb used to be?
After two reconstructions, I don't know about all that. I mean,
come on, man. Kareem Hunt never. I rode him in fantasy for years. I love Kareem Hunt. Nothing against him. He ain't carrying no squad.
Yeah.
When Chubb was there, that's when that tandem worked, and they had probably some of their best success in recent years. When all the fans were saying, you know what, these are not the old Browns. These are like, how the Lions are doing right now. Yep. Not the old Lions, we're the new Lions now. That's how it was when Chubb and Hunt were carrying the rock together. I'm saying Hunt can't do it by himself, and Chubb is not guaranteed to come back and be his normal self. This team is going a different direction to me. I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I don't trust them at all now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it was on ESPN where they put out an article where saying they have a chance to be a Super Bowl contender next year, and I was like, I don't think the offense is going to be good. And then you read articles like, and this surprised me, they have the worst scoring defense on the road. So unless you're giving them home field advantage throughout the playoffs, I don't see that happening. So it's just. I don't trust Deshaun Watson next year.
They also
don't trust
turned
the running
over
back.
the ball the most.
Yeah, so
you figure they turn the ball over the most. Their defense is questionable, but the thing is they'll still be in the conversation. They're good and they have enough pieces to be in the conversation, not necessarily for winning a division, but definitely in the playoff conversation. Not to say that they make it, but they'll be there. They'll kind of be that, just barely winning record type of team. So some years that gets in, some years it doesn't. But
we got to keep moving. Complete game by the Texans, though, man. Flacco threw 46 times. That means something. All right, let's go to the Dolphins and the Chiefs. Where's Raj? Where's our brother?
I texted him, man. I
Where's the other half of the Herb and Raj podcast? Is he?
Oh, he ain't tuning into this.
all jokes aside, seriously, is he all right for real?
I texted him this morning. He hasn't answered me this morning, so I don't know.
I know that yesterday wasn't, or the day before. I understand how you could possibly be feeling right now. Is he good for real?
I'm texting right now. It says, "Mr. You misses you."
Yeah.
I mean, you knew this was going to happen.
I picked.
Yeah.
But I thought I picked the Dolphins in our pick. I think I did, man, because I thought they were going to win. But
I picked the Dolphins, and we did it on our show, and I told him I did this to support you, Raj. I thought Kansas City was going to win, but I did this to support you. He goes, I appreciate that. But
minus 30, the Dolphins were not going to win.
Yeah. I don't know. Plus 30, like they were. I
thought they had much of a chance the way the Chiefs been playing. I mean,
right.
Look what they had to capitalize on. Kelsey was not himself. He was in a different headspace, distracted by something or someone. He wasn't even there. You know what I'm saying? Then you get this weird McDaniels play call, which I want to talk to y'all about real quick if we have time for it. I mean, in 11 quarters, the offense scored 40 points. I mean, something changed from this run and gun they were doing recently. What happened is McDaniels. I mean, he definitely had an impact on the game with his play calling. You can't deny that part. Raj can't deny it either. But do you see this as something that's fixable? Is McDaniels still good, or are we seeing the beginning of a problem because it's been kind of up and down? And I'm sure Raj can attest to this. The consistency has perhaps cost them an opportunity to go deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, so not like I think he's fine, and why I say that is because in those 11 quarters he was dealing with Tyreek and Waddle both being hurt, like they were coming in and out of the lineup. If your 1 and 2 threat are in and out of the lineup, I don't care how good of a coach you are. That's hard to coach around. I mean, you got 2 incredibly fast guys. Your offense is built around speed, and then you're going to go down to your 3rd and 4th option at quarterback to now be your 1 and 2. Man, that's a tall order.
Okay. I'll just lay this out here real quick. Then we go ahead and move on. Hill and Waddle, they get hurt quite often.
Sure.
So we got to talk about that part of it because if that's your number 1 and 2 guy and they're hurt a lot. I mean, there's plenty of teams that had that same kind of situation. It's not just the Dolphins by any stretch. There's a lot of teams that have a similar situation like that. But it's kind of a problem. You got to show up against. You got to do something about that because you can't make them not get hurt, right?
I'll say this: Tua puts them in harm's way a lot.
Exactly.
When you watch their games, they take a lot of hits. They're fast and they go up to get it. And we talk about how accurate it is, but sometimes the accuracy is right in the middle of 3 guys. Like I've seen Waddle take shots, come back in the game. So I don't necessarily just think injury prone. I think they take a lot of shots that wide receivers are not supposed to take in this day and age.
Ball placement, right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the ball placement is great, but like I said, if you're fit to get in the middle of those 3 people don't disappear. Exactly. Like you catch it, and then at least 2 of them are giving you a shot. I think if you go back and watch the games where Waddle got hit or got hurt in, he's taking some pops. I always list out like the 1,000 reasons why I could never play football. And like the top 5 are all those hits that you take.
Well, especially across the middle, right? Like if you got a quarterback that's hanging you out to dry, imagine if this was the Ray Lewis era of defense. Like their careers would already be over.
Yeah. So this shows about sports, family, and life. So every once in a while, I love for us to share about our lives. My grandson plays football. I shared that before. He thinks he's the man. He thinks he's going on to the next level. He thinks that he already understands everything. At 13, he knows all he needs to know about football. Let me tell you something. I want to tell him, but let it be a surprise. One of those hits. He catches one of those bad, but he's thin to say the least.
See?
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but what you'll find out is if he loves football or not.
That's what I mean.
Is he a wide receiver?
They move him around, but he's been doing DB and running back. But I personally don't agree with most of those decisions. But I don't. Right. First off, safety want to hit somebody. He don't want to hit.
Right.
Running backs get the rock, but they get hit too. Yeah. And I know that he doesn't want to be hit. So I'm like, so why you got him at DB? So that's just my personal thing. I ain't the coach. I'm over here just watching. I ain't involved. Okay, let's keep moving. Packers and Cowboys.
This was enjoyable.
Help me out here because I might stay here for a long time. As a matter of fact, the topic I want to talk about polarizing teams and players. I'm gonna hold that for next week, man, because we ain't got time for it. But talk to me, man. I don't want nobody to say it's me trying to come after them because I'm a Giants fan, but I mean, come on. Every year you talk about how it's going to be your year. You say it. You say the 4 words. This is our year. You do it every single time.
No, and they're right. They're right. This is our year to lead the first round.
It's not your year until it's your year. You can't tell that before the draft. You can't tell it before a preseason. There's no way you could know that.
This was one of the worst. This was one of the worst. You fired your play caller last year. You took over play calling duties, and you scored 7 points, and it took you up to the last 30 seconds in the first half. That's what shocked me the most. I knew Green Bay would put up points. I expected a shootout. But when we look into the first half and there were 7 points from the offense had scored as many for the other team as they had scored for themselves in the first half. And I said, you can't do that at home. You've been a great scoring offense at home. You know, if you had told me Green Bay had somehow 27 in the first half, but Dallas had at least 20 and they just played badly, I'd be like, okay, they'll come back in the second half. But 7, almost aided by penalties and a dropped almost interception just to get to that point, and then you don't come out after the half. I mean, it just you can't fire your play caller and then put on this kind of performance in the playoffs at home against a team that just barely squeaked into the playoffs.
Exactly. And Dak almost had 6 picks in this game.
Yes.
Right? Like, it easily could have been so much worse than
he promised he wouldn't do that anymore.
And what did I post on your thread? What did I post on yours, Bo? He cut down on them in the regular season so he could stay.
Exactly.
The pick six one was never open. You know, CeeDee Lamb is wrecked.
Oh, that defender was wide open.
You're right.
Open.
You're
right to him. He was just like, boom, breadbasket catch. Awesome.
I mean, he put that pick six in a spot where no one was ever going to catch it. Like, he could have walked at that point to the end zone the rest of the way, and everybody's like,
sure.
I mean,
this was embarrassing, man.
It was.
So here's the thing here, right? On this one is, so I picked the Cowboys here. I thought they're going to win by like a field goal. So this is the one that I got wrong so far. That's the one I got wrong so far and pick them. But the thing is going into this, I was like, okay, if McCarthy wins or they lose, like I was thinking, like by a field goal or something, you know, his job's probably safe. But to get absolutely torched, now there's a real question if he gets fired. And if he does, do they elevate Dan Quinn, or did they not see enough in this game also that they let them all walk?
Yeah, Jerry Jones
wasn't great either.
Yeah. Jerry Jones got going to die in that post conference. Yeah. He looked like he turned a different color. I think he might be at the point where he's like, what do we have to do? I never seen him look that way before. That's a new look for him.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen there.
You look at a 16-point loss and think it was actually worse. Green Bay basically stopped trying, and Dallas throws on a couple touchdowns, 2-point conversions to make it.
It was way worse.
Yeah, it was worse. And so this isn't even as close as what it looks like here. So no,
they had garbage time points, and Green Bay had backups out there.
Yep.
I mean,
it was worse. It was horrific. I was getting ready to ask y'all for the show, what would happen if they actually won the Super Bowl? We were going to talk about that. Yeah, that would be our plan. Part of one of the questions I'm going to ask y'all today. What would our world look like if they finally won the Super Bowl after all these years of talking? Now we ain't got to talk about it.
Oh man, it would be an obnoxious Twitter feed to say the least.
I told you so would be the Twitter feed. I told you it was our year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's breath, man, because it don't matter because they got demolished by the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. Do you know that they talking contracts also? I told y'all I said he didn't have enough opportunity to show you. Now he's showing you. Now they're talking contract now, long-term deal. I told y'all.
Sure.
I told you. All right, Rams, Lions. Let's shut it down with this one, man. Floor is yours, guys. That game, I didn't know who was going to win that game. I think I picked who was picking the pick 'em. I think I picked Detroit.
I took Detroit.
I have no idea what happened. It was back and forth. I thought to some degree the Rams were one-dimensional a little bit. I thought that, when in the end zone, they've been doing this for 2 years now, I think. They go to Cup in the end zone all the time. Occasionally one plays with Puka, but most times it's Cup. And Detroit was ready for that because it was so pre-scheduled, I guess you could say. Choreographed, I guess you could say. But between Cup and Nakua, it was that was their main emphasis.
That is their weapons. That's their weapons. It's not. They're not a super deep.
Josh Reynolds early on in the first, second quarter. A little Josh Reynolds too, but for the most part,
Nakua was a guy. That was basically every play down the stretch seemed like it was going to him. So probably should have drawn a pass interference that gets them into the field goal range. So Detroit's a little lucky, and it just seems like they kind of. I mean, the running game was non-existent in the second half for Detroit. I don't know if that was play call or the Rams defense just seemed to adjust. But
Nakua had 9 receptions for 181 yards. He had a good day.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Every play went to him, for better. So no, I was. Yeah, I agree. The man was a monster out there. After contact, his yards after catch were great. That man is that's a big dude. He's afraid of hitting anybody in the secondary. So I see that, but
I didn't know him from BYU, but I mean, I heard about him like through the pre-draft talk, and I was like, wow, he looks impressive. I didn't know he was going to the Rams. I'm like, wow, the Giants need to get somebody. I hope we can grab him. That didn't happen, but no, I heard a little bit about him, man, and it's panning out right now. He looked really good, man. A big deal, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, because Cup was non-existent in this game, so
yeah. No, I mean it was kind of the game I expected, though. I expected this to be a battle to the very end because they're actually built kind of similarly.
Yeah.
So they kind of both do what each other does well. So I figured this would be a tight one, and I had Detroit just edging them out.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a field goal. I thought that was pretty much going to be the difference. So they didn't cover that, obviously, but that's kind of where I was at. I thought it'd be a field goal difference between these two teams.
Well, Detroit only scores 3 points in the whole second half, so that's got to be a little shocking. But then you hold the other team to 6, so I guess I have a Detroit. Ahoda is also a Lions fan, so he texted me when they didn't score on that last drive and they had to punt. He said, "Oh, if we don't score a touchdown, it's game over." And they text me, "Oh, it's game over." So he was holding on by a thread too as well. So it was a good game. It was a fun game to watch the end of the night. So
I'm gonna direct this question to Bo specifically. And then we're gonna go ahead and move to the comments and shut it down.
I'm gonna head to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
No, I need you, man. What you talking about? Sit down. Get some coffee and sit down. All right, because Bo, the Lions are gonna go really deep in his. I think in our preseason stuff, he was predicting that Lions are gonna go pretty deep into the playoffs, and
I have them as a divisional round exit. I did because I had the championship round between the Niners and the Eagles.
Okay. Still feel the same way about it after what you've been seeing with some of the late games.
I don't feel good about the Eagles.
No. I mean, I'm talking about the Lions specifically because, like to her point, there'd be some times where they didn't. Their offense disappeared sometimes.
Yeah.
In especially late in the game. How do you feel about them as far as hitting that prediction you had for them early on? Still see it happening, or is it like? We'll
I still think they're a divisional round exit.
Okay.
So some of it is because they're not a complete team. I mean, it is a flawed team. It's fun to watch, but it's a flawed team. The other part of it is they just had one of the biggest emotional wins of that franchise's, that franchise in 32 years is winning a home playoff game, right? It's so hard to duplicate and carry that energy into the next week. I would bet that they come out a little bit flat. Unfortunate for Detroit fans because I mean you got to love this for their city. Huge emotional wins, awesome, right? Sadly for them, they're gonna probably come up short this next week. But
so you like Philly or Tampa Bay over Detroit?
I mean, I don't love it, but
I can't do that.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
I think the Dallas loss kind of opened things up for them with another home game.
It definitely did. I think the Eagles have a better shot against them than Tampa. But the Eagles, I think, has a real shot to take down Tampa now. I didn't originally think so. I thought Tampa would kind of get that game, but it's supposed to be monsoon type rain for game time.
That was with AJ Brown, though. AJ Brown, I don't think he's playing.
No,
AJ Brown is not.
So
Baker might not be, right?
Well, Baker's going to play, but he has an ankle injury, so he's not going to be able to move around much. But the thing that
for 300 today.
Yeah, right. Now, the thing that kind of changed this
9-3.
Yeah, exactly. No, the amount of rain that's supposed to happen is what changed this game for me because then it's going to favor the running game, and I like the Eagles' running game better than Tampa's.
Yeah.
I think that game's not going to be fun to watch. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but all right. The comments are just a few comments. This is going to be an all day, all week thing. This is like, and it's amazing how many people I know that are Cowboys. I'm like, when did that happen? None of y'all from Dallas.
Oh man, so
you just love Cowboy fans. It's like you just love Cowboys. It's like they all in mourning right now. I'm not even going to try to talk to none of them today or this week. I ignore all of them. They're going to be in mourning, man. Sackcloth and ashes. It's going to be a horrible scene out here. They do it to themselves, though.
To add fuel to this fire of just how like the Cowboys and how kind of arrogant McCarthy is he came out in his full-on Vince Lombardi style like get up with his big camel colored duster, and I was just like, oh, okay, like you're thinking you're Vince Lombardi out here, and tough to be like, hey, I'm equal to this guy that the trophy is named after.
Yeah. he's trying to ride that one Super Bowl win like for the rest of his life, I think.
NFL stands for not for long.
Yep.
You ain't lying. Things change. This is in relation to the culture discussion about Carroll and Saban and not Saban per se, but Carroll and Vrabel. These guys, just wow.
Yep.
All right, Charles, thanks for joining us, brother. Count on the Raiders to do the wrong thing. Well, I hope in this particular case they don't do that. It's not for me. My dad, when he was alive, former Vietnam veteran, served our country, man. Just love what he did for us and who he was as a man and everything. It's like he loved the Raiders. I don't know how he got there because he's from New York like I am. He moved to the West Coast and just fell in love with the Raiders in the early 80s or whatever. And just I'm glad he's not here to see what it's become. But hopefully Charles is wrong and they do the right thing, at least in hiring Pierce and give him a shot at the head coaching job, because the alternatives, besides Harbaugh, they're not really great. A lot of OCs and some guys, I don't even know who they are. I'm like, ugh, okay, so. All right. This could be relating to what we're talking about with Saban, perhaps. And Belichick and
all of them, really.
Not really into the new kids. I wonder what.
I mean, Carroll probably has the best chance at that.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty young mindset for a 70-year-old guy.
Yeah. No, I think that's valid with Saban for sure. I think, the motivating factors now are different than what they were when he really started. So
that NIL part makes it really complicated as well. I mean, you got guys getting Raising Cane deals and what it's like wow, it's like super easy now to start getting money. It's like I wonder how that affects what they do on the field.
Your recruiting pitch starts with the money now in college. So where it used to be like a little hush or under the table, now it's like, hey, here's the deals we have for you. Oh, and by the way, you might start.
Yeah. We need to chat to the guy to declare for the draft. Maybe we can try to pull that off next week, because I think Harrison put his name in the hat along with a couple of others from the Michigan team. I know Corum and McCarthy both put their names in the hat, and Roman Wilson. Well,
but like Cam Ward was going to the NFL. Now he's going to the Hurricanes instead. So like not even the NFL holds as much power, I guess, as what it is.
Okay, well, he wants some more of that college money, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean,
he's also not a top pick either.
You know what this is about. This is about those guys with the stars on their helmet.
Yo, you know it.
Mama's like, in a world where the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, that's what we have right there. That's going to be our life, our reality. Oh, man, the great show, guys. Thank you again so much for bringing to the table what you bring to the table. Let them know where we can find you guys real quick, and we'll go ahead and shut it on down.
Harbaugh Podcast on Twitter, and also search us on YouTube. All our stuff is on there as well. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else you find podcasts, we're out there as well. Check us out.
Yeah, and you can find me here every Monday morning, and of course on my channel at Football-Talk and Roku TV 5 days a week.
Thanks, guys. Love you. You guys are awesome as usual. Raj, I miss you.